Right, let's now take a quick look at some of the other stories which are making headlines at this hour. And let's start with some international news first, where Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has said that Tehran will continue to produce missiles for defense purposes and does not believe that its missile development program violates any international accords. Now, in a speech to the parliament on Sunday, Rouhani has hit out at the United States, calling negotiations with Washington as quote-unquote nothing short of madness. The Rouhani's comments come as US President Donald Trump has refused to certify Iran's compliance with a landmark 2015 deal curtailing Iran's nuclear program. Amidst the Kurdish crisis, Iraqi Kurdish leader Masoud Barzani has stepped down as the president. Earlier in a televised address, Barzani had said that he would not extend his presidential term after the 1st of November under any conditions. His decision to not extend his term was then accepted by the Kurdish parliament. His resignation comes as the Kurdish referendum had failed and the Iraqi forces had launched a counter-offensive to recapture the Kurdish-held territory. Now, after Masoud Barzani announced his resignation, armed protesters stormed the Iraqi Kurdish parliament building. Protesters demonstrated against the resignation. The parliament session was in progress when the protesters barged in. Gunshots were heard and some demonstrators also warned to punish the MPs who they said had insulted Masoud Barzani. Some also attacked journalists who were present at the scene. Now, Iceland's ruling centre-right parties lose their majority after a tight election, with all votes having been counted after Iceland's second snap election in less than a year. Now, the Conservative Independence Party of the outgoing Prime Minister Jani Benediktsson was on course to remain the parliament's largest, but the party has lost 5 of its 21 seats, paving the way for its main opponent, the Left Green Movement, to form a left-leaning coalition with 3 or more parties. Benediktsson has called the election last month, this after his 3-party centre-right government collapsed over an alleged attempt to cover up efforts by his father to help restore the honour of a convicted child sex offender. Switzerland is offering federal diploma in yoga instruction, making it the only European country with such an option. The country has recognized yoga therapy as a complementary medicine discipline. A coveted textile mill in Zurich has been made the ideal space for a yoga studio for all practical purposes. Now, sessions involve identifying the cause of physical or psychological problems by putting patients through a series of yoga postures. Now, to be eligible for the yoga therapy diploma, students should have completed a 4-year course in yoga therapy and have practiced for at least 2 years. The Trump administration is working on a nuclear weapons policy that is intended to mark a decisive end to the era of post-Cold War disarmament. The United States is all set to bolster the arsenal and also loosen the conditions under which it will be used. A draft on the new nuclear posture review, also known as NPR, was presented in September at a White House meeting between Donald Trump and his top national security advisors. The document is still being debated, with a target for completion by the end of this year or the beginning of the next. While North Korea continues to defy international sanctions and also build nuclear weapons, its neighbors Japan and South Korea are debating whether they need their own nuclear arsenals. In South Korea, polls show 60% of the population favors building nuclear weapons, and nearly 70% want the United States to reintroduce tactical nuclear weapons for battlefield use. Meanwhile, there is very little support for nuclear arms in Japan, but many experts believe that could be reversed very quickly if North and the South Korea both had nuclear arsenals. Britain's international trade minister is going to face a sexual harassment investigation. Mark Garnier is going to be probed on whether he broke the ministerial rules after he admitted asking his secretary to buy adult toys. Garnier has also claimed that his conduct did not amount to harassment, This comes at a time when the Prime Minister, Theresa May, is expected to write to the Commons Speaker asking for a new contractually binding grievance procedure to be set up for all MPs and their staff. The hundreds of women gathered in central Paris to denounce sexual harassment on Sunday. Demonstrations took place across the country that were inspired by the Me Too movement. The protesters brandished placards reading "Justice for Women" and "What part of no don't you understand?" A worldwide social media campaign was born in the wake of the allegations of the sexual abuse against Harvey Weinstein. The French government is currently holding nationwide consultations about a law that will include steps to fight sexual harassment on the streets, as well as extend the decree of limitation for rape of minors. The Somalian government has sacked its police and intelligence chief just days after the deadly attacks in Mogadishu. 29 people have been killed after Al-Shabaab staged coordinated bomb attacks on Saturday outside a hotel before storming the presidential palace. 2 weeks ago, Mogadishu was hit by a massive truck bomb that had killed as many as 358 people. It was Somalia's worst attack ever. "26 Syrian hostages who escaped from their Islamic State captors received an emotional homecoming in the central province of Homs. They were among at least 70 people who were abducted by the fleeing Islamic State fighters in the town of Al-Kharyatan when the Syrian army and the pro-government militias regained control of the town. Now, others are still said to be missing. The hostages escaped after they killed an ISIS militant, keeping an eye on him. The Turkish police have detained 143 people over suspected links to the Islamic State. The anti-terror operations were conducted in 8 cities over the weekend. 49 foreign nationals were amongst those who were arrested. They were allegedly preparing for an attack on Turkey's Republic Day. The police have confiscated several weapons, ammunition, digital data and also documents during the operations. Nearly 2 months after Hurricane Irma tore through Key West in Florida, thousands of people turned out for the Fantasy Fest parade, determined to show their resilience. Hurricane Irma featured prominently in the parade, with one group decorating their float entirely with the hurricane debris. The 10-day costuming and masking festival, which ended on Sunday, brings approximately $30 million in terms of revenue to the island chain each year. The Syrian army, supported by the Russian jets and Iranian-backed militias, have tightened its noose on the Islamic State fighters in Deir al-Zor. The heavy aerial airstrikes on eastern Syria's largest city were reported. As many as 1,500 civilians are trapped and are currently believed to still be present in the area. Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga has called for calm as he visited a slum in the capital that has been hit by violence over repeat elections in the country. Now, Odinga has told the worshippers at a church that his party condemns what happened and also wants to give consolation to those who were beaten and killed. He later addressed thousands of people outside the church, where he accused President Uhuru Kenyatta and his party of attacking members of the Luo tribe, which supports Odinga. A killing of the Kenyan farmer has raised fears of tribal violence. The body of a man was found in a sugarcane field in rural western Kenya on Sunday, one day after high-level officials had visited the area aiming to calm ethnic tensions inflamed by the country's repeated presidential election. The body of the 64-year-old labourer was found with 3 arrows in the back and severe head wounds. The motive and of the perpetrators for the killing is still unclear, but it came a day after the villagers from 2 different communities armed themselves against each other. China is likely to officially block and thereby terminate a US-backed proposal to get Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. Azhar has been designated a global terrorist by the United Nations. The proposal, which had the backing of the United Kingdom and France too, and the proposal was introduced by the US in January this year, and days later put on a technical hold by China, which the technical hold was extended by Beijing for another 3 months in August and is set to expire this week on Thursday. Well, to some national news now, and the Indian Army has finalized one of its biggest procurement plans for the infantry modernization. It is launching a fresh hunt for 7.7 lakh assault rifles, 54,000 light machine guns and over 44,000 carbines after a string of failed attempts to equip its soldiers with these basic weapons during the past decade. Now, a cost of nearly 40,000 crore rupees will be used to purchase the infantry to replace its aging and obsolete weapons. Apart from kick-starting the procurement process, the government has also sent a message to the Defence Research and Development Organisation to expedite its work on various small arms.